As I was reviewing my notes, it dawned on me that today's my wife's birthday, and I'm here, and she's not. So I'm going to say happy birthday on the SEC Network to my wife, who doesn't have Twitter. Shane Beamer is our next coach. Shane has been at the University of South Carolina as head coach for 1 year, moving into his second year. He was there before as an assistant coach. I said this last year. Shane was always one of the people who I'd met back when he was at Mississippi State. When I'd see him at subsequent stops, he'd come up at games where we were at the same place at the same time and say hello, and I've always appreciated that relationship. Last we saw Shane post-game, he was being knocked in the head by a 5-gallon tub of Duke's Mayo, and that's a reward for a successful first season, improving the Gamecocks from the previous year when they went 2-8 to a 7-6 campaign, and a win over North Carolina in the Duke's Mayo Bowl, producing the dunking and the knock in the head. He tied the school record at South Carolina for wins by a first-year head coach and surpassed the win total of the 2 previous seasons combined, earning him a share of the Steve Spurrier First-Year Coach of the Year Award, presented by the Football Writers Association of America. He's got 3 great kids, a wonderful wife, had the chance to meet them each. You've seen some of them on social media. In fact, I was disappointed he did not walk in with his today's sunglasses, if you've seen Twitter in the video. So he's without the sunglasses today. But his son Hunter apparently evaluates his social media performances and his coaching performances via Twitter. So awesome family. Great to have Shane in the league. Great to have him smile after experiencing the Duke's Mayo bath. University of South Carolina head football coach Shane Beamer.
Thank you for that introduction. I told Commissioner Sankey I was disappointed that we didn't have Soulja Boy as a walk-up song when I came up here as well after that also. And then thanks for that great reminder of that fantastic day in Charlotte as well. It's great to be back here at SEC Media Days for my second year as the head football coach at the University of South Carolina. It's great to be back in Atlanta. I started my coaching career here as a graduate assistant at Georgia Tech and literally flew over my old apartment as we came into town today. So certainly have come a long way since then, and excited to be here at the College Football Hall of Fame. This is a venue that my family and I love to visit. So if you haven't had an opportunity, people that are watching, to visit this awesome venue, please do. It's a great reminder of what makes college football so special, somewhere that we love to come, and it's pretty cool to be down here on the main floor and to know that there's a Hall of Fame exhibit of my father literally 1 floor up right there that I was just looking at as we came down. So certainly no pressure from that standpoint as well. Nothing like being here at Media Days, nothing like being in the SEC, the premier conference in the nation. I was here last year on day 1, had a great time. Left. I think I was it was a Thursday. I was at an Atlanta Braves game with my family. Driving back after the game when the news broke about the University of Texas and the University of Oklahoma joining this conference. So certainly that was an eventful week, but that's just another statement about how attractive this league is and the teams and the universities that want to be a part of this conference. Players want to play in this league. You see that in recruiting, and coaches certainly want to coach in this league as well. Thankful for Commissioner Sankey and his leadership. As he mentioned, he's somebody that I've had a lot of respect for a long time, but even more so now after being in this conference for a year. Thankful for his leadership in 2020, not just in this conference. I was in the Big 12 at the time, but his leadership across college football that allowed us to have a season. And then in 2020, and there's a lot of uncertainty right now in college athletics. It's unprecedented, some of the things that are going on. But I know one thing, I'm glad he's leading us. I'm glad he's leading this conference. He's a tremendous leader as well. And then thanks for all you guys do promote this game and the sacrifices you make as well, time away from your family also. Excited about the three guys that we have here today, Javon Gwynn, Zach Pickens, and Dakereon Joyner. Great examples of our program and what we want this place to be about. Two of the three, Dakereon and Javon, are graduates of the University of South Carolina. Zach will graduate in December, so they're handling their business off the field as well. All three are young men that did not have to come back. They chose to come back for another year at South Carolina. Especially Zach, could have been a high draft pick, chose to come back because they had goals that they hadn't accomplished yet as individuals, but more importantly, they were not satisfied with just winning seven games last season at Carolina. They're tough, they're dependable, they're competitive, everything that we want this program to be about. Tried to recruit Dakereon when I was at the University of Georgia. Didn't get him, thankfully. Tried to recruit Zach Pickens when I was at Georgia and Oklahoma at T.L. Hanna High School in South Carolina, and didn't get him. Thankful that we didn't. Fired up for the upcoming season. Dakereon, just so valuable to our program in so many ways, as a quarterback, as a wide receiver, on special teams, just so unselfish. Was the MVP of our bowl game, as many of you know. What a great day for him. Showed that he could play quarterback in that game. Obviously, I was looking at it before I came over. Just some of the awards that he's won at South Carolina that were voted on by coaches since he's been here. Unselfish teammate, strength and conditioning award, highest GPA, spring special teams player of the year, spring offensive player of the year. And then coming out of high school, he was Mr. Football in the state of South Carolina. Zach Pickens, very much the same story. A guy that was the #1 player in South Carolina coming out of T.L. Hanna High School, was Mr. Football in the state. Two great examples as we continue to build this program of what has to happen, and that's keeping the best players in the state of South Carolina at home. We did that when I was at South Carolina as an assistant coach with so many names that are stars of South Carolina football and Hall of Famers, and we'll continue to need to do that going forward as well. Zach and Dakereon are two guys that did that. Zach, like I said, could have been a high draft pick if he had chose to come back. He didn't. He came back to us, which we're thankful for, and if anything, he's gotten better. He was voted on by our coaching staff at the end of spring practice as our most outstanding player on defense. And then Javon Gwynn, you talk about durable and dependable. That's Javon Gwynn, 34 consecutive starts on the offensive line for us. He was voted a captain last year as a junior. To me, there's no greater honor as a teammate than to be voted a captain, and he was voted a captain as a junior last year as well. Been on the SEC academic honor roll all 4 years that he's been at Carolina. And a highly decorated high school prospect out of Charlotte, North Carolina, which is a strong recruiting base for us, as you guys know. Really like this 2022 group that we have. I love being their coach. I love coaching this team. The work ethic, the maturity, the hunger to improve has been evident since January when we came back after the bowl win. We made great strides last season, going from 2 wins to 7 wins. And a challenge for us is making sure our guys understand that going from 7 to the next step, the next level, is going to take even more work. And everything that I've seen from our guys since they came back shows me that they understand that. Last year I stood up here and there wasn't a single person in here that was talking about South Carolina football other than maybe our beat writers. No one was talking about any of the individuals on our football team across the country last year. I think the most noise we made at SEC Media Days last year was when we reenacted the Coach Spurrier Arby's picture on the way back to the airport. But there was very little talk about our football team. That's different this year. People are talking about us nationally, which is what we want. We have high expectations at South Carolina. People are talking about our players as individuals more nationally than what they were last year. There's more buzz about this program right now, and the key for us, the challenge for us, will be being mature enough to handle that the right way as a football team and understand the work ethic that it's going to take to get back to what we did last season, and understanding that the reason that we had a lot of the success that we did last year was how close or how connected we became as a team. Offensively, not going to go through every position. You guys I'm sure will ask me about it, but got a lot of personnel back. Certainly have to be more consistent than what we were last year. We've got some impact freshmen coming in and obviously some impact transfers that are joining our program as well. Excited about some additions to our coaching staff. Jody Wright coming in from the NFL to coach tight ends. We've hired Freddie Kitchens, obviously a name throughout the SEC that everyone knows, to come in as a senior analyst. Excited about what they'll bring to our staff, along with the returning coaches. Marcus Satterfield, our offensive coordinator, fired up for what we'll be able to do as an offensive staff in year 2, and the people around Marcus as well. That's a group. There's no egos in that room, and everyone's working together to be the best offense we can be. Defensively, made some great improvements last year under Clayton White. Statistically, we've added Sterling Lucas, a new defensive ends outside linebackers coach from the NFL as well. Sterling's done a great job. We lost a lot of really great players off our defense last year, but especially some great leaders on our defense last year. J.J.E. Nagbari was a captain. Jalen Foster for us last year was a captain. So it'll be a challenge for us to replace them on the field, but the leadership off of that as well. Pete Limbo in our special teams unit made some great strides last season as well. We have to replace the all-time leading scorer at South Carolina and Parker White, which will not be easy, but fortunate that we returned Kai Kroger, our punter, and the rest of the key specialists as well. A lot of great things happening off the field for us as well. I talked about the 3 guys that we have here today, and they're all either have graduated or on track to graduate. Right now, as a football program, we have the 3rd highest graduation success rate in all the SEC. We've got 22 players on our team that will play this season as graduates of the University of South Carolina. And then assuming we're at a bowl game in December, we'll have 9 more guys that will graduate in December. So if you're watching us play a bowl game in December or hopefully January, we'll have 31 players on our team that will have already graduated from the University of South Carolina. 25 of our guys made the dean's list last year. Recruiting-wise, going well for us right now. A lot of excitement when recruits and their families visit campus. The words that come up all the time are real and genuine when they talk about our coaching staff and the players in our program, which it's easy to be real and genuine when you're recruiting to such a fantastic place like we are at the University of South Carolina. Awesome academics, capital city in a fantastic state, the greatest fans in all of America. Our facilities, the Long football operations facility is second to none. Our staff that we have at Carolina, other championship sports like Dawn Staley and our women's basketball program. We've shown that you can win championships at South Carolina, and we will continue to at the University of South Carolina. And in closing, so excited about the future. Like I mentioned, there's so much local but also national attention about our program right now, which I'm excited for our players to be able to experience that. People want to be a part of what we're doing. It was announced last week that ESPNU is going to be focusing on us with their All Access series in the month of August and September. Welcome home. South Carolina football will air on ESPNU and other ESPN networks starting next month. That'll be a great experience for our players, great way to showcase our program as well, and thankful that they chose us. This wasn't something that we outwardly tried to do. They came to us because of what we're doing in this program as well. I spoke to so many sold-out Gamecock Club events in the month of May and June across the state of South Carolina as well. Seems like everyone that I went to, more than one person came up to me and told me they've never been more excited about South Carolina football. Our season ticket renewal rate is the highest that it's been in over 10 years. The improvements that we've made to our stadium, Williams-Brice Stadium was already one of, if not the toughest venue to play in all of college football. It'll be even more exciting and electric this season because of the improvements we've made to the stadium. But at the end of the day, it's all about the people that we have in our program. We got some special people in our program, players, coaches, and staff. So grateful and blessed to be the head football coach here at South Carolina, and we are just getting started with what we're doing. So with that, I hope I kept it under 17 minutes. I heard that was the rate today so far that I needed to keep it under. Hopefully I did, and with that, I'll be glad to take any questions.
Thank you, Coach. If you have a question, please raise your hand. Aaliyah, Bailey, or Kiera will get you a microphone. We're going to start over here to our right, Coach, on the second row. If you can, please stand, give your name and affiliation. Thank you.
Coach Trey Wallace, Outkick. Hey,
Trey.
Going back to last year, you had Zeb Nolan coming off, and you were trying to put him at the quarterback position because of depth. How much better is it this year compared to what you guys have compared to last year, and how much is it a relief for the coaching staff and everyone?
Yeah, when I stood up here last year, I certainly didn't anticipate a month later, having our graduate assistant be our starting quarterback, and I certainly didn't envision starting 4 different quarterbacks throughout the season like we did last year because of injuries. It certainly makes a difference. I think if anything, it's just the experience and the depth that we now have in that room compared to last year. Going into last season, Luke Doty was our starting quarterback, and he only had been on campus for a year. I think he started 3 games in 2020, so he didn't have a lot of experience. Now you got a guy like Spencer that's played a lot of football, has won a conference championship at Oklahoma, and then you add guys like Luke, who have now are a year older as well, along with some impact freshmen and that we've brought in. It's a different quarterback room, and it's certainly we have a lot of work to do, but it certainly, as a coach, makes you feel better about the situation going into the season.
Coach, we're going to go in the aisle right in front of you, 4 rows back.
Hey, Coach. Brad Crawford, 24/7 Sports. Hate to ask you another question about Spencer Rattler, but obviously he's the highest-rated quarterback this program has ever signed. How much pressure this season is on his shoulders to really make this offense flourish?
I don't know if there's pressure. I would say this, Brad, people forget Spencer Rattler is the starting quarterback at Oklahoma. He had some pretty high amount of pressure replacing a guy by the name of Baker Mayfield, Kyler Murray, and Jalen Hurts. And then what does he do in his first 2 conference games at Oklahoma as the starting quarterback? We, not him, we lose to Kansas State at home. Then we lose to Iowa State on the road. So he's replacing all these guys, had a lot of pressure going into that season, started out 0-2 in the conference, never flinched. And then the narrative I know was he got benched last year in the Texas game. Well, he got sat down the year before too, and then came back in the second half, played his butt off. We beat Texas in 4 overtimes, and he never lost a game as a starting quarterback again, and still hasn't as a starting quarterback. So I don't worry about Spencer. There may be some outside pressure with him. He's been through the fire before. I saw firsthand how he handled it when he was at Oklahoma and started out 0-2, never flinched, and continued to get better. There'll be some ups. There'll certainly be some downs, I'm sure, this season, but have no worries about him from that standpoint, being able to handle it. And with Spencer, we've got to be great around Spencer, players and coaches, and play well and help him. And then with Spencer, nobody's asking him to go out there and be Superman. Just go be you, and confident that he will.
Coach, we'll go straight in front of me, 5 rows back on the near aisle.
Drew DeArmond, WCZN Radio, Huntsville, Alabama. Coach, I wanted to ask you, last year you talked about culture and being able to, put your stamp on the program. You were very aggressive in the transfer portal. You got Spencer Rattler, Austin Stogner, Juice Wells, and then Devontae Reed. How do you bring these guys in and fit them in with your returnees in order to try to take the next step as a program and go from maybe 7-6 to 9-3 or better?
Yeah, great question, great point. I think that's a challenge that every coach in the country is dealing with right now with the transfer portal is bringing new guys into the program and acclimating them to your program as quick as possible. And kind of like I mentioned earlier, we were a really, really, really close-knit team last year. We started out 2-2, and then we never lost 2 games in a row after that. If we lost a game, we were resilient and always came right back, and that was because of how close and connected that team was. So we'll have to do that again this year. We're very intentional about that, building a team and do as much as we can as a team from January up until the start of the season and really throughout the season to continue to build that closeness. And last year, some of these transfers we were bringing in, I thought were pretty good players, but I don't know how many of you really knew who Carlins Patel from Assumption College was, or Jason Brown, or whoever. This year we've got obviously some impact guys, named guys, but the way that we handle things and how intentional we are about building a team doesn't change.
Coach, we're going to go over here to the right side.
Hey, Coach. Joe Majika here with Gamecock Central. So obviously we're talking about transfer players. You grab a lot of guys from the portal. How do you go about balancing a recruiting class with guys from the portal and guys coming in from high school?
Yeah, we always want to start with high school recruiting. There's great high school players and programs in the state of South Carolina. We're surrounded by so many great players. If you look at the history of South Carolina football and the great players that we've been able to bring from the state of Florida, or guys like Melvin Ingram that came from North Carolina, Carolina, or guys like Connor Shaw that came from here in Georgia. So we're surrounded by some great high school football. So we'll always start with high school recruiting, but certainly you want to be able to build a competitive roster year in, year out. And when there's a December signing period, and as we go into December, you kind of have a pretty good idea of who you're going to sign in December, and you realize, okay, if we need to sign 2 running backs, for example, which we needed to last year in high school recruiting, and we didn't, well, now we need to look to the portal, which is what we did, bringing in Christian Beal-Smith and Lavassier Carroll. So I think every year is different. If we could sign 25 guys from the high school ranks a year, we would. That's not always going to be feasible to win football games in the SEC, though.
Okay, we're going to stay in that same section about 4 rows back over to our right, Coach.
Connor O'Gara, Saturday Down South. I heard you mention before about how you recruited DeCarrion when you were at Georgia, and I imagine you had to have another conversation kind of recruiting him again when you arrived at South Carolina. What were those 2 conversations like?
Yeah, great question, Connor. Yeah, I remember going into Fort Dorchester. I mean, obviously what DeCarrion did in high school speaks for itself, and I was at Georgia at the time, and Jim Chaney was our offensive coordinator, and you know, part of me, because I may have my years mixed up, I want to say that was the year that Justin Fields came out, I think. I may be a year off, but we were going back and forth on whether we were going to take 2 quarterbacks that year at at Georgia or not. And DeCarrion was somebody that we really, really, really liked, and made multiple trips to Charleston, you know, to see him. And he chose to come to South Carolina. It was a great decision for him. And there wasn't a whole lot of, you know, talking when I got hired. It was, he and I had a good relationship when I was trying to recruit him out of high school, and followed his career at South Carolina. I knew what kind of player he was. And with DeCarrion, he's team first all the way. I mean, you saw, I mentioned it earlier, our first spring, he's named by us as coaches as the most valuable special teams player and offensive player coming out of spring practice. And he's a team guy. And he showed that throughout the year. He showed that with what he did in the bowl game. So he wants what's best for South Carolina football. But proud of DeCarrion because he's shown that he is an outstanding quarterback. He's shown that he's an outstanding receiver. He's an outstanding special teams player. Just an outstanding leader in person, and I'm glad he's on our team.
Coach, we're going to go in front of me, about halfway back on this near aisle.
Good afternoon. I'm Kobe with Bulldog Illustrated. You're clearly a youthful coaching personality, and I just wanted to know how you use that to promote a fun culture on your team. And then a follow-up question, I just wanted to know what went into the planning and execution of the Soulja Boy video.
Appreciate you saying I'm youthful. I don't always feel youthful, but I like feeling that way. Appreciate you saying that. No, I think so. It's one that we got a lot of great things going on in our program. We got some great people in our program. And don't get me wrong, I mean, we work really, really hard, and it's not easy being a football player out South Carolina. It's very demanding, and you're held accountable for everything that you do on and off the field. But there's also got to be some joy with what you do. This game's hard enough, and we want our guys to have fun, and I want this to be a program that when our players wake up each morning, they look forward to coming into our football facility each day. And I don't know if that was always the case before I got there. They do now. And anytime we get the opportunity to showcase our program, we want to. That came together very quickly. Justin King, who heads up everything for us with our social media and creative design, is the best in the world at what he does. And I learned a long time ago, like, I don't need to, when he tells me he has an idea, I don't need to ask what it is. I just tell him, what time do you want me there, and what do I need to do? So that's what it was this morning. I knew it was big because normally he'll just text me or call me. He actually picked me up in the car because he wanted to present the idea to me. And walked in, changed clothes, knocked it out in 3 takes, and had a lot of fun. Had a lot of fun doing it as well. So I was a little bit taken aback because one of our players thought I needed to hear the song so I would know what the song was and what the words were. And I'm not that old. I know who Soulja Boy is, and like I know some of the words to that song. So it was an easy ask.
Okay, we have time for a few more. We'll start over here on our right.
Here, Coach.
I got you. All right.
Other right. Hey,
I
Coach.
know. Well, he's had his hand up for a while. I'm just making sure we don't forget him. I'm coming to you. I got you.
Okay. Anwar Richardson from OrangeBloods.com. Coach, obviously you spent some time in the Big 12, but Texas and OU will be joining the SEC, so would like to get your thoughts on those two programs. And I know you recruit a lot in the Southeast, but with having Texas come in, could that potentially open up some avenues for you guys to recruit in that state of Texas?
Yeah, it's great to see. I see you. I see Kirk Bowles here, guys that when I was in the Big 12 that I certainly followed for Big 12 news. So welcome to SEC Media Days as well, and looking forward to working with you. Absolutely. Spent time 3 years at Oklahoma and know the talent out there as well. Understand the dynamics of those programs. And the world is a lot smaller nowadays because of social media. We've got some coaches on our staff besides me that have ties out there. Our offensive coordinator spent time at Baylor with Matt Rule. Justin Stepp, who was our wide receivers coach, coached at Arkansas and SMU, and I think his wife is a Texas grad, if I'm not mistaken. So we've got a lot of people with ties out there. We actually signed 2 players from the state of Texas in this year's recruiting class, and Peyton Williams and Landon Sampson. They're from South Lake Carroll. So that'll continue to be an area that we can open up because of those schools being in the SEC. There's a direct flight from Dallas into Columbia, South Carolina that recruits can certainly get on, and we'll go where they're players. We'll always start in South Carolina, but because of some of the things that we're doing on social media and here at our program, there's a lot of buzz and excitement about South Carolina football. I mean, I can't tell you how many text messages I have on my phone right now about that video this morning from whether it be former players like Stephon Gilmore or recruits in the 2023 and 2024 class that, are commenting on it. So there's a lot of great things going on at Carolina, and there's a lot of people that want to be a part of that.
All right, we're going to take one over here, and then we'll finish on our left, but straight ahead and the right.
Hey, Coach, Drew Barrett, ESPN Arkansas. Unfortunately, with the way that college sports is, you have to bring up NIL. And earlier today, Nick Saban threw out fair, balance, haves and have-nots. Where do you actually see the fairness of college football? And how well is South Carolina set up to be a have and not a have-not?
I think South Carolina's set up as well as anybody in the country, to be honest with you, from a name, image, and likeness standpoint. We're in the capital city of South Carolina. We're the only show in town. We don't compete with other pro sports in our state at the high level. And South Carolina, the fan base, it's evident how powerful it is. And you look at what our players have done. A lot of these guys that are here today to carry on, Zach Pickens, Javon, have been able to capitalize on their name, image, and likeness and utilize it the right way, the way that the law was intended when it was implemented, for sure, that those guys have been able to. You look at other student athletes at our university, like Aaliyah Boston on our basketball team, and what she's been able to do from a name, image, and likeness standpoint. So I tell recruits this all the time, and it's not recruiting speak. When you talk about being well-positioned for name, image, and likeness opportunities, I have a hard time finding somebody that's in a better situation than we are.
Take one final question here on the second row.
Hey, Shane, Jordan Hill with Dogs 247. As a former tight ends coach, I just want to ask, what are your impressions of Georgia's tight ends coming in this year? Brock Bowers, Eric Gilbert, Oscar Delp, Darnell Washington.
Yeah, talented, deep, for sure. They've, I was there with, Jeb Blazevich and Jackson Harris and Isaac Nada and Charlie Warner, and that was a deep and talented group that all contributed to that 2017 SEC championship team. But, you've got different skill sets with those guys right now as well. I remember watching Brock Bowers' tape when I was at Oklahoma the first time. I think it was from like a 7-on-7 camp or something like that he went to, and just some of the catches that he made in that. He's freakishly talented. They complement each other well and got a deep skill set. So there'll be a challenge, and you're right, I'm a tight end guy. I love utilizing the tight end, and feel like we got some pretty special ones on our team right now too, with Austin Stogner, who when he got hurt at Oklahoma in 2020 was playing as well as any tight end in the country in my opinion. Jaheim Bell returns for us. Travion Kenyon. We've added Nate Atkins to that group as well. So I like our group as well, but certainly Georgia's will be a challenge for any defense that they go up against this year as well.
Coach, thank you for your time this afternoon.
Okay. Thank you guys so much, and ladies, and have a great week. Go Gamecocks.